You're live, Koustav.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining another session. Today, I am Koustav Chatterjee, Principal at Frost & Sullivan, and I'm here today to host Mohammad Omar Sherief, MD and General Manager of Roche Diabetes Care India. Omar, thank you so much for joining us for this interactive session. Today, we expect to have a very free-flowing, candid conversation around diabetes management in India. November being the Diabetes Awareness Month has set the benchmark properly for us. We can have a conversation around what needs to be done after the pandemic is over to ensure that all the diabetic patients that are right now waiting to get their treatment done, and also patients who are not aware of the fact that they are diabetic or pre-diabetes, how they need to take care of their health to ensure that they stay healthy and avoid this dreaded disease. So we'll talk about that. So first of all, thank you, Omar, for joining us.
Thanks, Koustav and VOH for this opportunity and the invite, and happy to be a part of the webinar. Respected participants on the webinar, a very good afternoon. And at the outset, I hope and wish that all of you, along with your loved ones, are safe and healthy during these trying times.
Thank you, Omar. So we'll have the first round of discussion around the fact that when you joined Roche back in 2019, in the month of September, you had this singular vision of offering integrated diabetes management solution to patients suffering from diabetes in India. It has been 1 year since then, more than a year. And we also had faced one of the deadliest pandemic the world has ever seen in your tenure, the first year itself. So just trying to understand what are the different initiatives you have taken so far to address that goal and fulfill that vision that you had starting off with in 2019.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Koustav. And as you rightly said, we embarked on a journey which is called as the Integrated Personalized Diabetes Management. And it's important to understand what the journey is all about. And it's predominantly an outcome-driven, holistic approach in the management of diabetes, which predominantly means it enables patients to master the complexity of managing diabetes to actually improve their time and range. It also helps not only the patients, but also the healthcare professionals collect, integrate, and analyze disease-relevant data to support decisions which can delay disease progression, for example. And for us, it is also something that we move beyond selling hardware, which is the glucometers only, to offer integrated solutions for diabetes management. So if you look at it, IPDM, which is the Integrated Personalized Diabetes Management, is a process which involves different steps. It is a structured process for the treatment. It facilitates the communication between the healthcare professionals as well as the patients, and also integrates digital tools that visualize and analyze the data. And it's got to be personalized, it's got to be engaging, it's got to be collaborative, dynamic, evidence-based, and outcome-oriented. So that's the first piece of what you asked me about IPDM, Integrated Personalized Diabetes Management. As far as we are concerned at Roche, we've been doing a lot of activities in and around it. The company has actually partnered with emerging Indian businesses such as Fable, Wealthy Therapeutics, and PharmEasy to bolster our outreach to the people with diabetes out there. And through this partnership, for example, with Fable, we've worked for women with gestational diabetes mellitus using glucometers, which will now have the access to healthcare practitioner to monitor their diabetes closely and make necessary therapy titrations via the Fable Care application. And this helps improve clinical outcomes and leads to deliveries with fewer complications. We've also renewed our partnership with Wealthy Therapeutics, which is a digital therapeutics company, and the company is now offering active devices to monitor remotely their blood glucose for the patients, and thereby providing personalized coaching for highly skilled diabetes educators. And there's around the clock support based on individual needs. And they implement goal and condition-based diabetes management plans to improve self-care behaviors for better health outcomes. Apart from that, I also wanted to let you know that we've also partnered with companies like PharmEasy, and through their coverage and their digital reach, we have enhanced our customer service by addressing key customer pain points. And we have started up a new ecosystem that has brought in process agility, thereby creating customer delight. So these are some of the programs that we've been undertaking, Koustav.
Fascinating to know that, and I'm glad to also know that you're collaborating with the external vendors to ensure that you're reaching patients and consumers at the same time and giving them all the enablers they need to stay ahead of the curve in terms of staying healthy and avoiding admission to hospital. Now, talking about admission to hospital and the COVID-19 pandemic, I think it is widely reported in peer-reviewed journals and reported by scientists all over the world that patients with COVID-19 symptoms have also a dual threat, meaning if the patient has an underlying comorbidity, which is diabetes, diabetes type 2, or even pre-diabetes, there were cases where patients were resisting drug intervention. Also, patients who are not suffering from COVID-19 have a higher vulnerability for COVID-19 if they have that underlying diabetic symptoms, right? So, from COVID-19 perspective, what are the different initiatives you're planning to take as you move forward in 2020 and 2021 to ensure that your target audience is aware of the fact that if they're taking diabetes medicines, they need to also take care of COVID-19 because they're more vulnerable. And also, if they're admitted, unfortunately, for COVID-19 to a hospital, what are the different corrective measures they need to take to ensure that they recover faster and they basically survive the disease?
Okay. No, very, very good question, and very apt during these times of COVID. And yeah, we all know that the outbreak of COVID has posed several new challenges to diabetes care, and has also provided an opportunity for transforming treatment of people with diabetes. Now, when the lockdown started, they caused a lot of disruption, and the lives of people everywhere. And yet for those living with diabetes, the movement restriction have raised a whole series of extra questions. How can they seek advice? How can their health be monitored? And how can they continue to manage their condition? Now, because of the drastic containment and mitigation measures, people with diabetes found themselves without necessary services, and this has been disrupting the practices for preventing diabetes-related complications. However, government bodies, I have to say, and healthcare professionals out there have done a phenomenal job, and those who support people with diabetes have rallied really well during the lockdown to find innovative ways to basically help. Now, as you asked, I think some of the issues, Koustav, and the challenges that have emerged include the reported high incidence of COVID-19 infections among persons with diabetes, resulting in a higher number of ICU admissions and higher mortality reported in them. So much so that the comorbid conditions were reported as good as 70% in the mortality cases that we saw with COVID. Now, the increased predisposition of patients with diabetes to COVID-19 infections is believed to be related to a compromised innate immunity that accompanies uncontrolled diabetes. Now, the situation would be worse if there are other comorbidities, such as like hypertension, chronic kidney disease, or the coronary artery disease, which often coexist with diabetes and are associated with more aggressive COVID-19 infections. Now, in current times, people with diabetes have to be even more vigilant about their health. And this is the piece that we've been working on very, very, clearly out there. We call it being glucovigilant or glucovigilance. They should practice this to keep a regular watch on their sugar levels, eat a very balanced diet, exercise regularly. I know, many people cannot go out to exercise, but this is the time where, I also used to like biking outdoors and stuff like that. But, yoga is still a very intensive exercise, so it can be done at home. That's exercising part, taking medicines properly and monitoring sugar regularly with glucometers and many other devices that have come in the market. A high degree of alertness is what is required with frequent self-monitoring of blood glucose levels. And certainly, it is actually certainly advisable in known diabetic patients, particularly insulin users, to reduce the risk of being affected with COVID-19 infection and avoid any undesirable consequences should they get infected, for God forbid. Now, what we have also done, Koustav, is of course, reaching out to customers was quite a bit difficult, and this is where we innovated quite a bit in terms of making sure we're able to reach out to customers through digital mediums. And when I say customers, it's the healthcare professionals, the retailers out there in the chemist shops, and directly reaching out to the consumers, which are the people with diabetes, and trying to communicate this message of glucovigilance through online forums, through chat forums, through direct to consumer mediums, making sure that people know that there is a relevance of all the 4 points that I mentioned to you, and they should take good care if they are diabetic or if they have comorbid conditions, because COVID, along with the comorbid conditions, is not a good combination.
I completely agree with you, sir. I think my third question is around glucovigilance. We talked about having the infrastructure in place already to reach out to patients and consumers and offer them insight around how to take care of their health. But then you also have introduced My Sugar app, the app that right now I think thousands of people are using actively to take care of their health. They're reporting their vitals on that app on real time, and you're collecting that data. So, speaking about a digital intervention to ensure your patients remain healthy and avoid hospitalization, how effectively were you able to engage with other third party analytics companies and IT companies to procure that insight, first of all, and then create actionable intelligence from that aggregate insight that you're collecting through that app? And thirdly, once you have that actionable intelligence at your disposal, how you're leveraging it to continue to offer that targeted insight and care to your patient population?
Yeah, so it's a very good question, and thankfully, companies like Roche were a little bit more prepared. I have to say, as you rightly mentioned, we have an application which is called as My Sugar, which goes with a couple of our connected devices. So patients can actually, as they screen themselves, the data automatically gets transferred to their own smartphone through the help of the My Sugar, and they can put down a lot of more information in there in terms of what was the insulin dose, for example, and also what kind of food that they took and all that kind of stuff. Now, this is one piece of the story, and this is interesting because this data only then resides with the patient. And during the pandemic, the problem is not that I can analyze my own data, but I need to also share this data with my healthcare physicians. So therefore, now we have just recently launched, and we are piloting it in different cities, is a platform that is called as Roche Diabetes Care Platform, with which the My Sugar app will automatically get synchronized to the application with the healthcare physicians. So that means in no time, the healthcare physician can access the data, and there are different trend lines that the doctors can see, and therefore communicate with the patients to address some of their concerns and maybe make necessary changes to their diet plan, to their treatment modalities to look at better treatment outcomes. So I think this is a phenomenal tool already that is coming in between. And you also mentioned, are we working with other third-party agencies? And I have to say, I also mentioned earlier, we're working with some of the Indian tech companies like Wealthy Therapeutics, who is in between trying to provide the digital therapeutics for us, which means they intervene between the patient and the doctor as a coaching facility for the patients to ensure that they're taking the right diet and ensuring that they're able to monitor themselves properly and also exercise well. We've seen with all these interventions, Koustav, and this is documented study that I'm trying to tell you, which was presented by Wealthy in the American Diabetes Association. It could easily be reflective that when there are interventions like this, patients are able to take care of themselves more. And as a result of that, one of the arms of measuring their blood glucose is the HbA1c, and that reduced by 0.5%, which is sizable because every 1% reduction in HbA1c can lead to a lot more benefit in terms of reducing macro and microvascular complications over a period of time. So overall, these are the interventions which we are getting into the market with, Koustav.
Thank you for that insight. And speaking about Wealthy Therapeutics, I actually worked very closely with Abhishek Shah for a long time. I evaluated them for a potential best practices recognition on behalf of Frost & Sullivan, and they actually ended up winning that award as the Company of the Year award for the top digital therapeutics company in India. So glad to get the testimonial directly from you as a leading vendor, providing the support to them and offering that insight to us is again a very credible validation towards achieving the goal that yes, digital therapeutics has a place in India. Because when, as a consultant, I try to explain the value proposition of digital therapeutics to some of my customers, which include even healthcare information technology companies, often they don't understand what digital therapeutics offers and how it is different than any other traditional analytic solutions or any other traditional legacy platform capabilities that those companies have been offering for decades now.
Great.
It's great to get that validation directly from you, from the mouth of someone who is actually putting the dollar where it makes sense. And thank you for sharing that insight with us. Now I'm moving.
Koustav, just to add to that, if I may just take another minute or so. Now, this pandemic showed us something which could quite possibly happen in just 7 months. And what I'm talking to you is just 7 months, right? And we were envisioning that this kind of a penetration might happen only after 7 to 8 years, but it's already happening now. And looking ahead, I believe that technology will play a greater role in diabetes treatment and management. And even once all of this lockdowns open up and we get to start practicing normally, particularly through the advances in medical sciences and medical applications that you see today, linked with smartphone and the tablets and the computers, a lot of what happens can be delivered through technology-enabled approaches. Whether that's through uploading symptoms, weight, blood pressure, or blood sugar meter readings from home so that healthcare professionals can review them and give feedback remotely. There are many ways technology can keep people on track whilst we limit face-to-face contact. So I truly believe the future of healthcare, not only diabetes management, is going to be digital, face-to-face and digital.
Okay, so you introduced a new terminology. I'll have to write about it and give you the credit. Thank you so much for expanding the scope of this discussion from just diabetes to the entire healthcare spectrum. Speaking about the entire healthcare industry, especially pharma industry where you belong, some of the engagements I've done on behalf of Frost & Sullivan across North America and Europe, I got cases where such collaboration with a third-party digital therapeutics company also resulted in tangible evidence that pharma companies use in R&D. When a new drug is being developed or a science team is working towards finding the new biomarker to find that next blockbuster drug, they actively leverage insight retrieved from external collaborators, in this case, Wealthy Therapeutics. In India, have you done any such work where such insight that you're procuring at scale and using it to understand how your patients' diseases are progressing over time? Were there cases where you use that evidence also in actual drug R&D or any other drug discovery initiatives?
Yeah, so we've got to be a little bit careful here, Koustav, when we talk about data, because it's a lot to do with the data privacy, and I think we at Roche take it very, very seriously. So the kind of example that I shared with you of MySugar and RDCP platform, this resides between the patient and the doctor, and the data is in the cloud. So of course, we do not see this data, but nonetheless, this data can be actually interpreted by the healthcare professional in a way that can create a lot more insights for both of them to take decisions to improve treatment outcomes. Now, the interventions of third-party companies like Wealthy, again, the same principle. Due to data privacy, we do not share too many data points. But yes, overall, we try to look at how these interventions are able to, bring about the changes that are required in terms of improving treatment outcomes. Like, for example, a simple example I try to give you. In India, the penetration of self-monitoring blood glucose is only 12%. And you might be wondering why this is so low. It's low because the intervention levels are so low. Once the patient visits the doctor, after that it's up to the patient how they are monitoring themselves. With all this connected technology, what will happen is the healthcare professionals will be much more connected to the patients. And this pandemic has brought about a sea change in the mindset of the patients. Now they want to monitor themselves really, really well. So these interventions will give us a data point saying that if you have a coaching facility in between, like what Wealthy gives us, there is all the more possibility that patients monitor themselves much frequently, and therefore they're able to bring their condition in better control.
So we have 5 more minutes to go, Omar, and I have to touch on the regulatory landscape of medical device intervention as well. We talked a lot about AccuCheck and other applications that you're driving adoption in India. We all know that in this year itself, in the month of April, the government of India has amended the drug and cosmetics rule, and now for every medical device, irrespective of the fact that whether the device is imported from outside or it's manufactured in India, needs to procure a license from government of India, and only an authorized licensed medical device can be used in actual healthcare setting. From AccuCheck's perspective, because it is one of your leading product in the portfolio, how you're basically taking this new amendment, what are the different initiatives you have taken internally to ensure that you comply with all the regulations moving forward?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is in the right direction. I think you're right. This is going to be applying from the 1st of January 2021.
Yeah.
Not only us, the entire device industry is gearing up for it. We are discussing at different association levels as to what is going to be the impact of this. And I believe the impact is going to be good because regulating medical devices are important, but at the same point in time, it's also important to understand what are the categories which will change in terms of go-to-market strategy, for example. Here, you're right. Once we get into 2021, we will have a period of 6 months to start applying for the licenses, both import as well as manufacturing licenses. And as that happens, of course, most of the companies comply with ISO 2013, at least when it comes to the glucometers and stuff like that. And if some companies don't, they will have to, of course, apply for it. In our case, we have all the ISO certifications. All that is required is to go out and get the licenses more from the drug perspective, and which, of course, takes between 6 to 9 months to get it approved. So we have the window of opportunity to get the licenses done, and the government has given us this opportunity, and we are thankful to them. They're listening to us. And what will change, Koustav, is we need to be in constant dialogue with the government to understand what we are doing currently. Like, for example, I told you we go directly to the consumers today with consumer marketing and stuff like that. So if certain things have to change, we might need to identify them and, of course, need to make those changes going forward in our go-to-market strategy.
Thank you for that insight again. And we have 3 more minutes to go. I'm just trying to understand if you have any question for me at this point that I can answer as a representative of the industry, as an analyst.
Yeah, there are 2 things. One is, of course, I would like to ask you, how do you see the pharmaceutical industry moving? And because you work for Frost & Sullivan, you have a lot of data bank out there, and you analyze industry. So what's your thoughts on pharmaceutical industry, and how do you see that shaping in the coming years?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. In fact, we're receiving similar questions from all of your competitors. And one common consensus we have across the board among the leadership of pharma companies is we have to invest more on IT. So the role of information technology in pharma is going to be historic in 2021. The collaborative efforts that you have already taken on behalf of Roche India is basically completely aligned with how the overall global pharma industry is behaving today. But they're not only doing it directly to reach out to consumers and offer educational insight, but they are doing it across the board for every department within pharma, be it drug discovery, be it market launch, be it supply chain, be it procurement of ingredients that get into the drug that will be ultimately produced. The role of information technology, and especially within IT, the role of artificial intelligence, a specific technology within the broader IT spectrum, is going to have tremendous impact how pharmaceutical industry historically produced drug, launched drug, and reached out to patients to allow them to consume drug. Just one example that I wanted to share with, there's one company that I've been working with for 6 months now. It's based in New York. It's called Komodo Health. It's one of the leading startups. Obviously very proud to say that founded by two Indians in New York back in 2015, and within last 5 years, it got the unicorn valuation. And what they essentially do is they offer a market map to their pharmaceutical clients. And that market map will be used by pharma rep to understand where the patients are in the entire care continuum, what really prompted them to be there in that particular journey. So for example, if a patient was at home but now is at long-term care, what are the different indicators that really prompted or pushed that patient from home care to long-term care? Also, they're providing the same insight on behalf of pharma to the physicians who are recommending drugs to those patient population. Yeah. At the same time, this particular company is also measuring how each disease is progressing against a specific drug intervention. So there are different drugs available out there, and there are thousands of clinical trials going on as we speak. So this company was able to then map the efficacy of one specific drug against a specific disease that a patient population is suffering from, and use that insight, offer that insight to a physician so that he can take a more informed evidence-based decision moving forward. So that market map insight, where the patients are, what prompted that patient to be there, what are the different initiatives that need to be taken to ensure that the patient comes back to home or avoid readmission from there, are the core insight pharmaceutical companies are actively invested on. So I think moving forward, more and more pharma companies would actively invest in external collaboration. They will also form internal IT companies. This would be subsidiaries of large pharma companies, but they will be acting as a core healthcare IT company. And they are not necessarily only working for that particular parent company. For example, if Roche decides to, let's say, acquire a company tomorrow that right now acts as a core HIT company, Roche can do that. But then HIT company that the Roche is acquiring doesn't have to offer insight only to Roche. It can reach out to Pfizer, it can reach out to BMS, it can reach out to Johnson & Johnson. So the common trend I'm seeing across North America is they're investing strategically in their own IT workforce. They're also investing on external HIT vendors where they can have a stake and ensure that the same technology is made available to some of their competitors, because it's all ecosystem, right? We are now in a world where you cannot function alone. You have to team up. I mean, Johnson & Johnson is teaming up with Pfizer. Roche has teamed up with other pharmaceutical companies to jointly produce insight on how a particular disease is working, how a clinical trial is successful or not. So these are the kind of trends we are seeing in aggregate globally, that pharmaceutical companies' appetite for IT has increased dramatically, and they will continue to invest handsomely on information technology to efficiently manage their entire business, not only patient-centric business, but the entire business in and out.
Yeah, great. And that's a good message to all of us. And I think we take it positively. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar, for your time today, and we look forward to staying in touch with you.
Likewise. Thank you very much and for having me. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care. Bye-bye.
Same to you. Thank you, Koustav.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.